All right. Ready?
Ready.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Nostalgia Effect, the podcast where we examine movies from our childhood through the lens of adulthood. We are still in self-quarantine, but we're all here.
We're alive.
Skype.
I got my big Howard Hughes type beard and my long fingernails, living in a bathrobe.
Penis
That's just
in
called
mason jars.
unemployment, Joe.
No, it's called fun employment.
No,
I mean,
no.
Joe's technically not either of those things. He's freelance,
It's true.
which, still could be considered fun employment.
Every day that I don't have a gig, I'm unemployed.
Exactly. You're not getting paid.
True. But I'm also not
Technically-
sitting in traffic. I'm not dealing with stuff I don't want to deal with. It's great.
Technically, on the weekends, everyone's fun employed unless you have a job that works on the weekends.
That's true. And then that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we're talking about James and the Giant Peach today. We're picking up our Roald Dahl double feature. But before we do that, we're going to talk about one of mine and Joe's favorite things that annoys Johnny so much.
Well,
Disneyland.
This actually combines all three of our favorite things. I mean, it's a bunch of different
Exactly.
things. You guys love Disneyland, but I do love campuses. So,
Johnny loves college.
He's
I don't
a
love
great
college.
admirer.
I don't love college. I like college campuses. Okay.
Oh, because you
The-
love all
the-
those co-eds.
Yeah.
Who
Well,
doesn't?
I was thinking more about the different types of flowers.
Floral?
Florals.
Fauna.
Fauna. That's
Fauna and
animals.
flora.
Those are animals.
Well, the fauna would be the co-eds.
Yeah, no. All right, this joke's gone off the rails. I'm done.
Well, we're going to talk about Avengers Campus.
Yes,
Because that is something
that's what I
that
meant.
appeals
I meant
to all three of us.
The Avengers. I do really like my superheroes. So,
Yes.
Caped Crusaders, if you will.
Wrong
And
property.
from what we have seen, I think at the time of recording this a couple days ago, Nerdist put out an article kind of detailing what it's going to be like, and it sounds so cool. I'm very excited, more excited than I had been previously.
Well, we didn't know much information before, right?
No, we just knew
was-
there was going to be a Spider-Man ride, and it was going to have a lot of the Avengers stuff in it. That's about as much as we knew before that article came out.
Right. And and we knew that it was but now this is giving us like proper details, right?
Yeah, like we know all of the food that's going to be in the restaurant there. We know a lot of like concept art sketches of what it's going to look like. And like even we know what the characters that walk around are going to look like. It's really crazy.
Well,
Like, it's very detailed.
I wonder how, because the art is super awesome, and I'm just wondering like how much of this art is it really gonna emulate? Because there's like a cool like Quinjet. There's a whole. I mean, oh my God, the art is so cool. The Spider-Man ride looks really badass. But there's like a sanctum. Explore the ruins of mysterious ancient sanctum and encounter the master of the mystic arts, Doctor Strange. I mean, I guess it's maybe just a meet and greet.
Yeah, I think it might be a meet and greet, but it also might be kind of
Oh, you know what? Because
it's like a little garden kind of area that you can walk around.
yeah, and the thing is it's under. So there's the Disney website has it broken up into a few different things. It says powered up attractions, and there's obviously Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, and there's Web Slingers, which is the Spider-Man one, and that looks super cool. And then it says the next like batch of things is Heroic Encounters, and there's the Sanctum and Avengers Headquarters. And I have a feeling those are going to be kind of like amped up character meet and greets.
Yeah, so like I don't think that you guys have them in Toontown here, but I know in Mickey's Toontown Fair when I was younger at Magic Kingdom, they had like the tent, and you can go into different rooms and do character meet and greets.
And
that I think that might be kind of similar to what you're talking about with like in the Sanctum and like the meeting characters.
Our Toontown has something a little similar where you go into each of the characters' houses.
Mm-hmm.
So you go into like Mickey's house and you meet Mickey, and then you go into Minnie's house, you meet Minnie, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. In Disney World, like in Magic Kingdom, you had like Mickey and Minnie's houses, but they were like ones you could walk around and tour through.
Oh yeah, you could do that here too.
Yeah, but you wouldn't meet them. You would have to like go to the like circus tent.
Oh.
But they've taken all that down since, I believe.
Right,
but
right.
that's a whole nother podcast. We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
I
There
know
was
how
an
much Johnny
episode.
loves us
There was
talking about.
there was an episode about that very thing on either Defunctland or the other YouTube
Yesterworld.
Yesterworld.
Uh-huh.
One of those
Probably.
two. They had about the meet and greets and the tents and whatnot.
Yeah.
Everything just said. So, listener, if you really want to find out more about it, watch those.
And you don't want to hear us talk about it, go to somebody that probably knows
That
more,
did the
some more
research.
And we're just talking about like 20-year-old memories.
Yeah.
I'm curious about Pim's Test Kitchen.
I am really excited for Pim's Test Kitchen.
I feel like
more details about that were just like because in whatever thing that they've like press release or whatever, doesn't it say like there's different foods of like different sizes and they're supposed to be like, so yeah, that's interesting. I find
Yeah, so I think from the Nerdist, I'm pulling up the Nerdist article right now so I can talk a little bit more.
So you don't sound like a
knowledgeable
fool.
Yeah, I'm trying to find where they had the like list of everything. Yeah, there it is. There's like this giant chicken sandwich where it's like a tiny little slider bun with like a little bit of slaw, and then it's like a huge chicken tenderloin or something.
Interesting. That's the kind of stuff that's like that's what makes. I mean, all right. So you guys are all super into Disneyland and all that shit, which is fine. I'm whatever about it. I've never been huge. Like I like Disney shit, but like Marvel specifically. Like even when like Star Wars Land opened up, I still haven't been to Star Wars Land, and I know it's like super great. You guys have told me all about it, and I like Star Wars, but I don't like Star Wars more than say like Marvel. So like this Marvel shit, this is like how I feel like you guys felt when. I mean, I think this is how you guys just feel about Disneyland normally, but
Yes, I mean probably.
Yeah, I am
like
now.
they even have this giant soft pretzel.
right. Well, and then they also, I think the thing that really pushed you over the edge, Johnny, was the fact that they're going to have a shawarma place.
Yes, yes.
Which
I'm just
and-
it's such a like the thing that I can appreciate and that I do appreciate about Disneyland. I shit about Disneyland a lot just because you two annoy me about it. Really, it's really just shitting on you two. It's not actually about Disneyland. It's really just about
Who can shit on Disneyland? It's so perfect.
but their attention to like detail, the things that you guys have talked about, like and why you guys love it so much is because there is so much care and attention put into everything that goes into whatever they're releasing, and so the fact that they have a shawarma place, it's just so funny. It's just it tickles my heart. It lightens. I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah.
That's so
And it's
good.
not like an actual restaurant though. It's gonna be like a cart. So they're like bringing
Yeah.
a shawarma place from New York to the campus because I think they're gonna have one in DCA, Disneyland Paris, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, Disneyland Tokyo.
yeah, I think that's right.
The campuses, the Avengers campuses.
Yeah, they're going to have 3 different Avengers campuses.
And
And I
they're-
think they're all going to be the same because that's what they did with Galaxy's Edge. Galaxy's Edge in Disney World at Hollywood Studios is pretty much exactly the same as it is here at Disneyland.
Right, yeah, it's like a carbon copy.
But they only have 2 of the Star Wars lands, right? Like they have one in
I think
Disneyland
so.
proper, and
Are
then one
they-
in Orlando. They don't have any.
Yes.
In the
I don't think they have
international
one
ones.
at any of the overseas. Yeah.
But the thing is other overseas parks have more Marvel presence than we currently do here.
Because there's like this weird podcast that I talked about it a while back. There's like this weird I don't think anywhere in the United States above the Mississippi line or below the Mississippi line can have Marvel stuff in it except for Universal Orlando. That's why there's no Marvel stuff at Universal Hollywood, and that's why there's not going to be any Marvel stuff at Disney World.
Yeah, so I this is the first I've heard about the Mississippi line part, but I know that for quite a long time that Universal had essentially like the contract for Marvel rides, and that's not just like Spider-Man and Hulk and all that stuff, but also X-Men. And that was only they had the licensing, the theme park licensing for it, so only Universal Studios could have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Universal Studios in Florida, though.
Right. So that makes sense because
they couldn't put it here.
So there's
in
essentially
Hollywood.
like East Coast Marvel stuff, which is at Universal Studios Orlando, and then West Coast Marvel stuff, which is Disneyland, California Adventure. And
Correct.
That's it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting.
And which is why it's also more prevalent in overseas Disney parks.
Right. Man, lawyers.
Yeah, they're crazy.
But so the one thing that I'm curious about this ride or this area though, this land, is so as much as I like Galaxy's Edge, as much as I enjoy both Smuggler's Run and Ride of the Resistance, and the Ronto Roasters and everything like that.
I was craving, I will just say, I almost texted you yesterday, Joe, saying I'm craving Ronto breakfast wrap.
Oh, it's good stuff.
It was like 3 p.m. and I was like, I need a Ronto wrap right now.
Gotta have that Ronto. Sorry.
But the thing is even though I love the theming, it's all just so well done. I still can never really get past the sense of it feels like there's just not much to do there at Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of getting the same feeling about this Avengers campus, that it just kind of, there's going to be one ride and then there's 2 meet and greets, and I honestly don't care about the meet and greets, and I feel like it's going to be meet and greet and also this Avengers headquarters one where it says encounter some of Earth's mightiest heroes and watch them spring into action is going to be kind of like one of those shows, you know?
Yeah. Well, I was watching the last episode of the Imagineering story, and have you both watched the entire series?
I have.
No.
There's a little, like, maybe 5 to 10 minutes at the end where they're testing this full body robot that looks like the robots from that Will Smith movie iRobot.
Yes, I was gonna bring that up.
And it's doing flips and stuff around. That, I think, is a robot that they're going to use
Spider-Man
on Avengers campus as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Flipping from the building, like the roofs of the buildings, doing the show, because they're going to have very dynamic performances. Like, you know how Kylo and the Stormtroopers come out throughout the day in Galaxy's Edge?
No.
I think that they're going to do that with a lot of the character actors throughout Avengers Campus, and they're going to have, like, break into fights and all that kind of stuff. Like, I think they said Taskmaster is going to come out, and, like, they gave the example of him fighting, like, Black Panther, and Taskmaster adapts to the fighting style of his opponent. So it'd like be really interesting to see like Taskmaster and Black Panther fighting like on the roof of the Avengers HQ, or you have like a robotic Spider-Man just like flipping through the air like between buildings,
which is going to be super cool.
Yeah.
But you know that fighting is going to be kind of more dance fighting than it will be actually cool fighting.
Oh yeah, it's very choreographed, but I think the choreographer for the fight scenes is the same choreographer for the Black Widow fight scenes, which the Black Widow fight scenes, at least from the trailer, look great. We will see if it's still coming out next week as of the day that this episode gets published.
Right. Yeah, I kind of have my doubts.
Yeah, I think with everything else getting pushed back, it's going to get pushed back, but we'll see.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm curious to see about this Avengers campus. I was there at Disneyland right before it closed, at California Adventure, and sort of like peeking over the wall to see what I could see. And
I saw somebody who was also there, like they did a YouTube video, and I think that they showed that they opened up the walkway. There's like a new walkway opening that is kind of themed to transition into a Avengers campus.
Oh, I didn't see that.
It's like a black and white one. I'm not sure which side of the park it's on. If it's like more towards like where Soren is. I really need to learn up on my DCA map.
Your geography.
I know my Disneyland geography. I do not know my DCA geography.
Yeah, because it used to be there was like a place where you could walk basically from what was the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror through Bugs Land into the rest of the park, and obviously that's closed now while they're working on Avengers Campus.
I'm pulling up my Disneyland app so I can give you a for sure. I think it is probably more on the side where Grizzly River Rapids is.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of entrance. And actually, you know what? I think it's on the side by Guardians of the Galaxy, because they had that closed off for a while.
Yeah, that would make sense.
They had that like really weird separation.
Mm-hmm.
I think they maybe finally opened that up, and that's where they have that walkway.
Possible, huh? Well, there's...
Who knows? We won't know for a couple more months.
Assuming we're all still alive to enjoy it.
Yes, I'm hoping.
Giant changes coming to DCA, but not quite as giant as this peach that we're going to talk about.
Oh, yeah. That's a great
segue.
transition show, actually. So, Joe, this was your suggestion.
Yes, it was.
What were your memories of this as a child?
Um,
Or even now?
Well, so it's another movie that I hadn't thought about in a really long time, but really loved at the time. I loved the book growing up. You know, we talked about Roald Dahl in the last episode, and this was one of the ones. It was James and the Giant Peach, Matilda, the Min Pins, which I guess was published after his death, which I didn't realize, and also Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I'm trying to think. There was another one that I think I was BFG, of course, and Fantastic Mr. Fox, which I think also is a great movie. The Wes Anderson.
Oh, I love
film.
Fantastic Mr. Fox. That's one of the ones that I have not read.
That one doesn't.
Yeah.
That one doesn't
Same.
feel at all like a. Maybe because the movie itself is so much the
Wes
vision
Anderson.
of Wes Anderson that I don't even feel like it is a Roald Dahl book.
Yeah, it's too stylized to him for it to be a Roald Dahl book.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the
that's why
same feel, you know. And also, it could also be that movie being as how like the Roald Dahl movies that we've been talking about at least came out in the 90s, you know. So they kind of share a similar aesthetic and a similar feel because they were made around the same time, whereas Fantastic Mr. Fox was made, you know, completely different time by a super stylized director that puts his own spins on things. Like it's I kind of didn't even know that was a Roald Dahl book.
Yeah, I think at the time that I knew Fantastic Mr. Fox was a book just from having seen it at the library when I was younger. But when the Wes Anderson movie came out, I did not even associate it with it at any point in time. I'm like, they're two totally different things. They're not the same. Kind of like the way I felt with Ready Player One, even though Ready Player One, it definitely feels very much like the book, but they're two completely separate entities.
Yeah.
Unlike Matilda, it feels very much like the book.
And this one, yeah, it does feel like the book. I feel like stop motion animation is a great way to capture sort of the heightened, almost gothic reality of Roald Dahl's tone.
Yeah. I think from what I remember, I've only seen this, I think, once when I was very, very young. I believe we did have it on VHS, but I have not watched it since then.
Yeah.
The animation, the way that they made James look when he's the stop motion character looks very much like I remember some of the illustrations.
Yeah.
A lot of the way Roald Dahl illustrated his books.
And
James and the Giant Peach, like I mentioned in Matilda, was one of the other ones that I had not read.
Well, and the funny thing is, and I didn't realize this, but sort of looking at it now, it came out in 1996 as well. Same year as Matilda.
Yeah, it came out 2 months before.
Yeah.
Or 3 months before, April to August.
Yeah. And, yeah, and I knew at the time it was directed by Henry Selick, who had done The Nightmare Before Christmas, which had come out, I think, 3 years before.
Oh, really? I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's nuts. That makes sense, but yeah, I had no idea.
And because Henry Selick was pretty much like the only guy doing stop motion animation the way it's.
So I think he also did, looking at his IMDb, Coraline as well.
He did do.
Yeah, I know that. I mean,
yeah. Which I also love that movie, love that book. But yeah, I saw this movie in theaters, loved it, had it on VHS, loved it, and then hadn't thought about it in a long time. How about you guys?
It like I said, I had it on VHS, but I have not watched it since then. So it's been probably like since 1996 or 7 since I've seen this, but I remember it scared the shit out of me. I was so scared of like the spider. I did not really like the like I don't know why, there was just something about it that I did not like as a kid. So I watched it one time and I was like, never watching this again.
It was the rhino.
So I don't remember it.
The rhino in the clouds. That was the scary part. I mean, there's a lot of like scary imagery in this movie that I remember. I don't remember a lot of it. Again, this is like a Roald Dahl book that I very much remember, and I remember the movie coming out and watching it and liking it. But then there be like these like scary bits to it, and I do remember the rhino.
I'd forgotten about the rhino. Huh.
Interesting. Well, I'm ready to get my pants scared off. Are you guys?
Keep your pants on, woman. Jesus, this is a family show.
Is it though?
No, not at all.
We curse a lot.
I curse a lot.
Well, let's
right.
watch James and the Giant Peach.
Let's do it.
And now, our feature presentation.
And we're back. So,
Yeah.
Joe,
Yep.
rewatching this, how did you feel?
You know, I'm a little torn actually, because I think it's a beautifully made, wonderfully imagined film. You know, but it feels like it's missing something. It feels like an imitation of a movie that other people made. You know, it feels like an
Really?
imitation of yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like, I don't know. I find that this movie is. I don't think it's an I find it hard saying that it's an imitation of like movies that other people made, just because I feel like this movie is so strange. The story itself is strange, and I don't remember it like being as weird as it is. But watching it, like, you know, he's like climbing into a peach, and there's just so much weird shit in this movie where I'm just like, huh, this is a very odd movie.
Yeah.
I think the beginning of it and the entire film really had a very Tim Burton feel to me, which was not surprising to me when I saw his name come up as a
When you as producer.
Yeah.
But especially the beginning with you know, the live action portions, everything's got that like German expressionism, like,
And the forced perspective
twisted
kind of.
forced perspectives, like,
Yeah.
which is super interesting. Like I like this movie. I like this movie. I think like you're right in that they're missing something. I feel like there's a chunk in the middle where like nothing happens, even though stuff happens. Like somewhere along the way, it just doesn't. I don't know. It feels like
I
missing
have a
something,
note
like I
that
said.
says like after they run into Jack Skellington as a pirate,
Yeah.
and there's like that whole big adventure under the water, and then
Yeah.
they're like, I was like, I literally wrote TBH, getting kind of bored. I got very bored with this movie, like about halfway through.
You know what I didn't like about this movie? The songs.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
forgot that this movie was like. I forgot that there was even songs in this movie.
Me
I
too.
think that might be why I got bored.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the songs they went on for like a long time. Not a long time, but you know, like Disney movies do, they use a song to kind of carry forward like the plot. But the songs usually in Disney movies, I feel like, are better, or at least, if not better, just more memorable. Whereas this has no memorable songs in it whatsoever.
It grinds it to a halt.
It does,
grinds
and
the entire movie to a halt.
It
Yeah.
does, and it which might be why it feels like it's missing something, because it uses those songs to kind of like cover over stuff, and the songs aren't particularly good, so you kind of notice it more. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
But here's
And
the
I don't
weird
think
thing.
the performances of the songs are that great either.
Yeah. But here's the weird thing is those were all Randy Newman, who did not only the music but the songs as well.
Yeah.
I will say, Amy, there was the great there was the Jack Skellington cameo as the pirate.
Yeah.
But did you happen to notice that there was one of the other pirates was basically Donald Duck?
No.
Yeah.
I did not see
So
that.
there's a duck
I was
wearing
too
a sailor's
focused
hat.
on watching Jack Skellington because he had like the Santa Claus Christmas beard,
Yes.
Yeah.
and I was like,
And
too
he even
focused
says
on that.
he even says Skellington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says,
At
"Oh,
one
look, a
of the points
skeleton."
Yeah, he looks skeleton, which is interesting. I was like, I also
look,
do.
cameo.
There's a couple of jokes that I really did like. When he jumps into when the centipede jumps into the water, and he's like, he's committed pesticide.
Yeah.
And it just made me laugh.
Grasshopper to me reminded me a lot of Hopper from A Bug's Life, but I think the monocle is like Hopper's bad eye.
Oh,
His animation style.
Because he's so nice.
Yeah. Well, he looks like the way that stop motion puppet looks very similar to the way Hopper is animated in A Bug's Life.
Because he's so angular too. There was
I do really like I think the stop motion in this is really good. So I felt like it held up because of how weird everything else is. Like, because of the live action shots with their forced perspectives and like the warping sort of reality when the stop motion stuff comes into play, like I think it works together really well. So whereas this movie, it doesn't feel cheap or like dated.
Oh no!
In terms of the effects,
it is a technically
you know
amazingly well done film.
Yeah,
yes.
I think the thing that I don't enjoy about it is the story.
The plot,
like
really.
the plot of it. It's like it doesn't go anywhere but it goes places. Like, I don't know.
Well, it's I think the thing is it kind of, I don't want to say that it lurches from one action set piece to another, but it sort of does. You know, it's just like it's sort of like sort of episodic. And like in this episode, we deal with, you know, the pirate ship underwater. In this episode, we deal with the sharks. In this episode, we deal with, you know, the seagulls. And it kind of just feels like a series of events. I mean, I think that's probably why it's missing something for me, because it's not. I was gonna say that, but that's not true, because I was gonna say, you know, how a movie it shouldn't be A happens and then B happens and then C happens. It's A happens and then because A happened, B happens, and because B happened, C happens. But the thing is like they get to that underwater pirate ship because they've gone off course and they need a compass. And so I feel like there's strong story reasons why everything that's happening is happening, but it doesn't feel as connected as it ought to.
Yeah, well, I think it's like specifically with the compass thing is like they get the compass, and then they put the compass onto the peach stem, and then that's the end of it.
Yeah, like they don't really use it again, I guess. It's sort of hollow in that way. Like, why did we go through all of that? We didn't really need it.
Right.
I will say, going to what you both said about how beautifully it's done, I think one of the things that that really leapt out to me is how everything is kind of, in a really cool way, very mechanical. You know, the shark is a machine.
I love this shark. I love the shark. That's what I was saying, like how weird this movie is.
Yeah.
Like, just the strangeness of it. The fact that, like, all right, they're in a giant peach, right? Like, you get that. Like, right, the peach is big.
Sure.
The animals are also big. Okay. But why is the shark made of metal? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's actually it's not like a ship.
Sense.
It's like it doesn't make sense. But in a
like,
good
I mean,
way.
I know it's supposed to be part of James's imagination, but it still doesn't make sense. And then, like, I feel like they were going to explain the whole Rhino thing, and they never.
The Rhino thing
like,
never. Yeah, that's the thing that
I was like, is it
to this day
I
don't
else
understand.
Killed his parents?
Maybe.
Like,
and that was the only way that he could rationalize what he saw, was just some amorphous creature that, you know, exotic creature,
an unstoppable force.
Yeah. Like, the only thing I can compare it to is the Jim Carrey Series of Unfortunate Events movie, where the kids just show up and their parents are dead and the house is burned down, and they, like, spend the entire film figuring out why that happened. And in this, I feel like he should have gone on a journey to figure out, like, to get away from his aunts and to figure out what killed his parents and, like, kind of build himself up from that or something. I don't know. It just didn't feel like... I felt like that was just like a big gaping hole that I was trying to grasp at understanding that never got explained.
Yeah, that even though like character-wise he builds up the courage to confront the Rhino, that it's sort of nothing comes from it in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although it kind of does. I would say the thing that I found even watching this, especially after watching Matilda, the parallels that I found in this, which I thought were really interesting, and it goes to our point that we were talking about in the last episode about how, and both of these, it's about kids trying to get away or create their own space away from adults that don't, one, treat them incredibly badly, but also like can get away with it because at the end of the day they're kids and adults will always believe other adults over kids. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's that sort of like these kids are trying to like tell people how terrible like these adults are, how terrible adults are, right? And adults are just like, nah, you're a kid, you're dumb. And I'm like, what is in Matilda, it was like, you're dumb, I'm smart, you're big, I'm big,
you're
you're
little,
whatever. Yeah, that sort of deal. And I found that I was able to, like, I never saw the parallels before, but like James is also like, he's at the beginning, he's very much submissive. He doesn't really have any idea where he thinks he's going to get away or live a better life, And then, obviously by the end of it, he confronts the Rhino, and then by the end of it, he stands up to his aunts, and he's like convincing everybody that he's telling the truth and these people are awful.
Right.
Yeah.
I find it interesting, but then looking at it more, I'm like, that's a common theme in Roald Dahl's books, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is, at least for me, thinking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that might be one of the reasons why I really like those books as a kid, just having that feeling of like being an isolated child and having adults that weren't always the best, and you were just like, oh yeah, like that's the way of the world.
Yeah, that you're a victim of the world and you're a victim of the grown-ups in it.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I feel like that kind of extends into adulthood. I think we all still kind of feel that sometimes, whether it's other
definitely.
adults like at work, like a boss, or if it's the government, which is adults again.
Well, it's just like this authority figure, right? And like, I think both of these movies, they're the little guy, literally, the little guy going up against these massive authoritative structures, right? Whether it's parents or like schools or, all this other shit. And so I found that parallel between both of these movies, especially watching them back to back. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. I suppose I never really connected those two dots before, but it made me appreciate this movie more. I still have it. I still have my issues with it, like what you said with the plot and it being, kind of slow. And I really don't like the songs. Yeah, and I really think the songs slow it down. I think this movie could be a whole lot better if you cut out the songs.
Yeah. Which I'm looking at the fun facts on IMDb, and the "Eating the Peach" song was actually written by Roald Dahl.
Interesting.
And then the ants recite a few lines of a poem written by Roald Dahl as well.
Yeah, the thing about like the toes. Yeah. Yeah. I did also think that this movie did stray into the kids' film, especially making the ants kind of the sort of buffoons.
Yeah.
And I think this movie did stray into that more.
Making what? I didn't hear you.
Sort of making the ants sort of buffoonish, like
they did feel very bumbly.
Yeah, like
really, I felt they were like, I don't know. I felt that they were cruel. Is one there? I mean, their design is like especially hideous. You know what I'm saying?
Nightmarish.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about,
but
like,
also
the stuff that happens to them. Is that like, oh look, they just got slimed. They just got
got flattened by a peach in their car.
Yeah, but it's very much slapsticky, right?
Yeah. But I mean, especially, I mean, they both were terrifying, but Joanna Lumley looked like a nightmare.
Oh my god, those false teeth that they put in her were kind of like terrifying.
I don't think those are false teeth.
Are you sure? Because I looked at a picture of her because I was like, are those her real teeth? But I think that they are even more, because they stick out a little bit more in her face than they actually do, like her actual teeth do.
Maybe. They certainly put like something in there to sort of like more black in between the teeth, sort of make them nastier.
They also looked too they looked too rectangular. They looked too perfect.
Yeah. It looked like she had too many teeth in there. Even. Yeah. I mean, there were things that a lot of things that I really liked about it. I do think you're right, Johnny, that if the songs had been left out, it maybe would have been better. But there is so much good stuff. You know what's funny actually about this? And I was watching it because the whole time I was listening, I was like, I thought Richard Dreyfuss was in this film, but I don't remember who he was. And it turns out he was a centipede. Like, it's actually got a pretty good cast. And then
there are some more Harry Potter.
Yeah,
Right.
I only know
Characters?
the two.
There's
I mean, Richard Dreyfuss and then David
Thewlis.
I never know how to pronounce the name. Yeah,
and then Miriam Margolyes was also Madam Sprout.
She's Professor Sprout.
Professor Sprout. But you know what's funny?
Professor Pomona Sprout.
You know what's funny is so Susan Sarandon was the voice of Mrs. Spider.
Yeah.
And what's funny is Chris Sarandon, her brother, was the speaking voice of Jack Skellington in Nightmare Before Christmas.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And so I thought that was kind of like a funny, oh, look at that, you know.
Connection, yeah.
Yeah. I thought David Thewlis was hilarious as Earthworm, though.
Oh, yeah.
And did you notice that he didn't, I'm pretty sure he didn't get an honorific ahead of it. I think it was like, you know, Mr. Grasshopper, Mr. Centipede, Mrs. Ladybug, Miss Spider, and then he was just Earthworm.
Oh, I thought it was always Centipede also.
Oh, was it just Centipede?
No, it's Mr. Centipede. It's Mr. Grasshopper, Mr. Centipede, Miss Spider. Although it says Mr. Earthworm here, so I don't know.
In the movie I thought he was calling everybody else, and then he goes Earthworm. It's like he didn't get any kind of respect.
Huh.
It's the glowworm. It's the glowworm that doesn't get a Mr. or Mrs. at the beginning.
Who was also voiced by Miriam Margolyes. So
yeah,
fun fact.
I thought that was funny every time. Like she was kind of like. She kind of reminded me of Peach from Finding Nemo, you know, where like Peach is talking and then they're like, "Can't hear you, Peach," and then she like pulls herself off the side of the aquarium so she can speak more clearly. Because there's a bit where she's like, "Hey, glowworm, turn on your light," and she goes, "I can't hear you, dearie. Let me put on my light." You know, and when she shows up and she's facing the wrong direction because she can't see.
Yeah.
You know, so like there was a lot of cute stuff like that I really liked, and I loved, you know, speaking about the how everything had sort of looked like it was technology even when it was organic. It was like Miss Spider had like a spool of thread. I mean, she looked like a sewing machine, you know, that it kind of like there was like a little door that opened up and the spool of thread came out and then she pulled on it. You know, like I thought that was cool. I thought that was an interesting way to sort of depict that.
No, this is a super imaginative movie. Like, I mean, because the book itself is like super, you know, it's the story of the book, and the book itself is very just strange, and like I think stop motion animation is probably the best way you could have made this movie.
I agree.
Yeah.
And like the stop motion is just amazing. Regardless of like how I feel about the plot of the movie or the pacing of the movie, I think the actual production of the movie is fucking fantastic, especially for like, what is this, 96?
Yeah.
97?
96.
Yeah.
96.
Yeah.
Yeah, they accomplish a lot.
So good. Oh, yeah.
And you know what's funny? So I don't know how much either of you know about Roald Dahl, and I looked it up to make sure I was correct. Because this is like an adventure book, I think, more than any of his other things. You know, his other stories are a lot of like a down and out character goes to a thing.
Maybe I would say, what is it? What is it? Charlie and the Glass Elevator, whatever.
Great Glass Elevator. Yeah, the second.
That's an adventure book. I would say that one.
That's fair, and I think so. It's kind of what's interesting is that kind of sort of pays into Roald Dahl's real life. Not only was he was a fighter pilot, he was a spy for MI6, and I mean that's kind of amazing.
It is.
And he was kind of like and I remember this from when I visited Washington and I went to the Spy Museum, which was super cool. Listener, if you ever get a chance to go, the Spy Museum is really awesome. And they talked about how Roald Dahl was kind of like, how do you want to say it? He was a
international man of mystery.
He was basically his job was to like seduce the wives of like
high-ranking
senators and high-ranking representatives, and like learn what he could from them and report back. And it's like, damn.
Is that how he got all of his ideas?
Well, I do know that he went to a school when he was younger. He was at a school near a chocolate factory, and they would bring like samples of the candies for the kids, like new candies that they were developing for the kids to try, and that's kind of where Charlie and the Chocolate Factory came from. But then later he wrote the James Bond film You Only Live Twice. So and as a spy and as a officer in the Royal Air Force, he kind of lived that life a little bit in World War II.
Yeah,
and so it's just kind of interesting.
I remember him being like an amazing person.
Yeah, and it's just kind of interesting because there's a few other like notable British people who we think of as, you know, one thing, and they had this whole other life. Christopher Lee is one of those people who was a real spy, and I seem to recall reading a story about how he had to tell Peter Jackson, no, that's not what it sounds like when you slit somebody's throat. It sounds like this.
Oh.
You know, like, and it's like, oh my God, Jesus Christ.
Oh. Well, on that note, is there anything else that we want to talk about? 'Cause I don't have any, like, I have one fun fact, and it's not really that much of a fun fact. It's just that Sam Mendes is currently in early talks to remake the movie.
Huh.
Whoa.
But
Sam
it doesn't say
That's a
when
weird
this was.
choice. Yeah.
Like, the most recent notoriety that they have to him is Spectre in 2015. So I don't know how reliable this fact is. It could be an old fact.
Huh.
I see.
But that's about all that I have in the way of fun facts.
I mean, so, all right. So what do you guys say? Does it hold up?
I think the animation style of it holds up. I just don't like the rest of it.
I think it's fine.
I kind of agree with you. I would say actually more than fine. I think it's good. Beyond its points that I made that I did not like, I like the movie. I would say it holds up still.
You know, actually, you know what I think because I think Amy's right in terms of that how it's done holds up. It's
yeah, like the filmmaking, the transition from from real life to animation is really well done. Technically, I love this movie. It holds up very well.
Yeah, you know what I'm looking at here is it says in the book Spiker and Sponge were killed when the peach rolls over them and crushes them.
I saw that too.
And so I kind of feel like, because I do not remember the book very well. I remember loving it. I remember specifically the thing about the sharks eating attacking the peach. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if some of the things that they did to adapt it kind of took away from the original source material, and that maybe if the adaptation was a little bit different, maybe I would like it better. Mm-hmm. You know, like if Spiker and Sponge had been killed, you know, like if because maybe they sort of like sanded off the rough edges of the book because maybe they thought, oh, this movie's already going to be PG. Let's try to make it a little friendlier. You know, like, so I just wonder if maybe a slightly more artful adaptation would have served this movie better in the long run, if not at the time.
Yeah.
You know what I want to see? You know what I want to see? You know what would make this movie better?
You want to see stop motion boobs?
No. Well, I already see that. But this movie would be, I would really like to see this movie directed by Wes Anderson.
Ooh.
That would be interesting.
Right? I feel
just
like
a fully stop motion.
Because I do love Fantastic Mr. Fox. That is a good
do
movie.
fantastic Mr. Fox, but with this property, and then obviously not, you know, have Wes Anderson take it in whatever direction he wants to take it. I feel like this movie is just weird enough, and it lends itself to his style for sure. I would like to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think it's the talking animal bits? Is that like, because Fantastic Mr. Fox is like all talking animals, and this has like a lot of the main characters are talking insects?
I think, I mean, it has to do with just the fact that it's stop motion, you know, it's miniatures, but also just like the world itself is so weird and strange, and I feel like Joe said, like if it was a more artful, because he said more artful adaptation, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, what could be more artful than Wes Anderson?
True.
That's fair.
I'm like, oh yeah, I would actually really like to see that. I think that would be really good. But that's just my opinion.
I'd see that.
I would be interested to see that. I mean, honestly, I'm interested to see anything Wes Anderson does. I'm trying an experiment and avoiding everything about his new film that's coming out. So
She doesn't even know the title.
I didn't even know there
She's
was a
gonna be
film.
like-
That's how much I'm avoiding it.
Yeah.
is it like the French
Connection.
Okay.
No, it's not called the French Connection. Oh, Lord. It's
Yeah,
called The
see, I don't
French
even know the
Dispatch.
title.
Yeah, it's all-
Dispatch. I know that I half the title.
2/3 really.
All
You
right.
said the French.
Yeah. Boom. There
Yeah.
it is.
Well, you guys, I guess that's it. I think this might be our
guess that's
shortest
it.
episode.
Could be. It's because of the
Well-
corona. We all got the corona.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I had a couple of coronas
Johnny has
earlier,
an
but,
actual
you know,
corona.
That's later.
Well, thank you, listening. Thank you, listener, for listening.
Thank you, listening public.
And let us know what you guys think of James and the Giant Peach. What do you think of Johnny's idea of having Wes Anderson remake this? Let us know on Twitter or
That's a good idea.
Instagram
Such a good
at
idea.
Nostalgitis, NOSTALGITIS. Or
Somebody
you can-
get Wes Anderson on the phone. Sorry, Amy. Go ahead.
Somebody email us and Wes Anderson at nostalgiaeffectpod@gmail.com and tell him we have a fantastic idea for him.
Boom. We
But
have
don't
a
forget-
fantastic Mr. Fox idea. Boom!
Hey!
How to
Don't
do it.
forget to be kind and rewind.
And eat your peaches, I guess. I don't know.
Don't eat
Wash
the
your
butts, eat
hands.
the peaches. Wash
Your hands, you degenerate.
Sneeze into your elbow.
Be safe, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Slow down. Chew your food.